The city never slept. Even under the pale light of a waning moon, the streets of Elendor pulsed with life, shadows moving between glowing lanterns, whispers riding the wind, and eyes that watched without being seen. In this city, humans were often unnoticed, delicate creatures among the powerful, predator-like beings who ruled its alleys and towers. But tonight, one human would catch the gaze of a predator, and nothing would ever be the same. Leora moved carefully along the cobblestone streets, her basket filled with fresh bread and herbs from the market. She had learned early that subtlety was a shield in Elendor. Most beings didn't notice humans, or if they did, they dismissed them as fragile, predictable, harmless. And yet she carried herself with a quiet strength that only a few could see. Her brown eyes widened slightly as she passed the baker's stall. The scent of warm bread and spiced pastries drifted toward her, and she felt that familiar tug in her chest, the simple, instinctive hunger that humans often took for granted. Her pupils dilated subtly, a silent signal of her focus, her attention sharpening. She didn't notice it herself, not fully. It was a small, primal reaction she had carried since childhood, harmless on ordinary nights. But someone did notice. Kale stood in the shadow of a nearby archway, leaning casually against the stone. His presence was like the quiet before a storm, calm, yet loaded with unspoken power. His amber eyes were sharp, calculating, and they had caught the shift in Leora's pupils almost immediately. A predator's focus was hard to disguise, but humans rarely displayed it with such intensity. Kale had hunted many creatures in his long life, studied instincts, and yet this simple human intrigued him. He stepped closer, his movements smooth, deliberate, silent. Even in the bustling market, he seemed to glide through the crowd without drawing notice. Leora felt the change in the air before she saw him, an almost electric tension that raised the hairs on her arms. She froze, her hand gripping the basket tightly. "Good evening," Kale said, his voice low and melodic like a distant song carried on the wind. Leora's heart skipped. She blinked quickly, forcing her pupils to adjust to the light of the lanterns, and turned toward the voice. A man, or something like a man, stood there. Tall, lean, and unnervingly graceful, his presence made her instinctively step back. "Evening," she replied cautiously. Her voice was soft, barely carrying over the hum of the market. Kale tilted his head, studying her. "You are different. I have never seen this before." Fear surged through her, but beneath it, a spark of fascination kindled. Who was this being with eyes that seemed to see through walls, through facades, through her very self? "You watch me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I observe," Kale said simply. "It is what I do." Leora's heartbeat pounded in her ears, a drum of caution and excitement intertwined. She wanted to flee, but something in Kale's presence anchored her. Finally, he spoke again. "Tell me your name." "For what?" Yet standing before Kale, she sensed a spark, an acknowledgement of something within her that even she had not fully realized. "You're different too," she said finally, her voice steadier than she expected. "You don't look like everyone else here." A cart had tipped over, spilling fruits and vegetables across the stones. People scrambled, voices rising in alarm. Leora instinctively stepped forward, her pupils widening, her attention sharp and acute. She moved quickly, helping an elderly vendor lift a basket of apples without thinking. Kale watched, intrigued. This sharp, sudden focus was exactly what he had sensed. Humans could be unpredictable, and when their instincts awakened, they could rival even the most skilled predators. "You see it," Kale murmured, more to himself than to her. "See what?" Leora asked, glancing at him. "That spark, that instinct, your eyes, they reveal it all." She had always felt ordinary, almost invisible in a world dominated by beings of strength and cunning. But Kale's words suggested she was anything but ordinary. When the chaos of the market settled, Kale stepped closer. He moved with a grace that made the ground seem like it could bend beneath him. "You must be careful," he said, his voice low. "The world is not kind to humans who are different. Instincts like yours attract attention." She did not yet understand what he meant, but a part of her, a part that was sharp, alert, and alive, recognized that he was right. She felt both frightened and exhilarated by his words. Why are you telling me this?" she asked finally. Kale's eyes softened slightly, though the predator beneath it never fully vanished. "Because I have seen something in you that others cannot. And because I am curious about what you might become. You will learn," he said softly, "that what you see as hunger is only the beginning." And Kale, standing in the shadows, felt something stir within himself as well. Curiosity, yes, but more than that, a fascination that he had not expected, a pull toward the human who had so casually yet so completely captured his attention. The night deepened around them. Lanterns flickered, the wind whispered through the streets, and the city seemed to hold its breath. Leora and Kale remained, two beings bound by chance and instinct, separated by species but connected in ways neither yet understood. Finally, Kale stepped back, his presence receding like a shadow slipping into the night. "Stay alert," he said, his voice soft but carrying weight. "Your instincts, they are dangerous to you if you do not understand them." She looked down at her basket, at the food she had been so intent on gathering moments ago, and realized her pupils were still wide, still focused, still alive with something she did not yet understand. The city breathed around her, indifferent to the drama that had just unfolded. But Leora felt different, aware, alert, and aware of a predator who had noticed her. And somehow she knew that her life had changed forever. Because in the shadows, Kale was watching, and he would not forget. The next day dawned over Elendor with a pale sun stretching its fingers across the rooftops. The market was alive again, filled with merchants shouting prices, children running between stalls, and the smells of baked bread and herbs mixing in the crisp morning air. Leora moved carefully, still carrying the memory of Kale's amber gaze from the previous night. She could not shake it, no matter how she tried. Every shadow seemed deeper, every sound sharper. Her instincts felt awake in a way they had never been before. Her pupils, she realized, still dilated at even the smallest triggers: hunger, curiosity, surprise. Something inside her had changed. She paused at a fruit stall, her hand hovering over a plump red apple. Her focus sharpened as she examined it, considering its weight and smell, its ripeness. It was almost like she could feel the potential energy inside it, a thought that made her pause and shake her head. Humans didn't notice such things, did they? Or had Kale simply shown her a new way to see the world? Her attention was broken by a soft, smooth voice behind her. "You notice details others overlook." "You again," Leora said softly, her voice tinged with surprise and a hint of fear. Kale's amber eyes studied her pupils, still slightly dilated from focus. "I promise to watch, and I am curious. That spark in you, it is rare among humans." "I eat, I survive." She wanted to retreat, but something in Kale's presence rooted her to the spot. It was a strange pull, magnetic and dangerous. "Fascinating," she repeated, echoing the word he had used. "I've never been called that before." She wanted to ask, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she simply nodded, unsure if she should trust him, yet unable to step away. Kale's gaze softened almost imperceptibly. "I will not harm you," he said, "but I will observe, and if you wish, I can teach you to understand what you are capable of." How could a predator like being teach her anything? And yet a small, fierce part of her instincts, throbbed with excitement. There was something thrilling about the possibility, something dangerous and irresistible. "Teach me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Kale replied simply. "You have skills you do not yet recognize, instincts humans rarely awaken. I can guide you if you are willing. Readiness is not always necessary. Curiosity often drives growth more than readiness. And you are very curious, Leora. You have instincts that could rival mine. You only need guidance." But Kale's gaze held her, steady and intense, and in that moment she felt a flicker of courage she had not known before. "Show me," she said finally. "If you can, show me what I can do." "Focus." Leora obeyed, hesitating for only a moment. She felt the cool air brush against her skin, the distant scent of food, flowers, and city smoke blending together. "Now, sense," Kale continued. "Don't just see, feel, detect movement, potential patterns. Your instincts will guide you." She noticed the flutter of a bird's wings overhead, the soft scurry of rats in the corner, the subtle shift in the wind. Her pupils widened instinctively, her mind mapping every detail with a clarity she had never experienced. Kale watched silently, impressed. "Good, you are quick to adapt. Most humans take longer." "It's like my senses are awake, more than usual." Kale's instructions were subtle, teaching her to notice the smallest shifts in posture, the faintest sounds, the way eyes moved. Leora discovered her own sharpness, a predator-like focus she never knew existed. As the sun dipped toward evening, Kale finally stepped back. "You have potential, Leora, but with potential comes danger. Others will notice what you are becoming." "Others?" For the first time in her life, Leora felt alive in a way that was raw, sharp, and undeniable. "Kale, why me?" she asked quietly, almost afraid of the answer. He studied her for a long moment, amber eyes unreadable. "Because you are human and yet not. You are something the world has rarely seen, and because curiosity drew me to you, there is a spark in you, Leora. A spark I cannot ignore. Tomorrow, he said softly, we continue. You will learn more than you know, and perhaps you will see yourself as I see you. As she walked home through the quiet streets, her pupils dilated slightly, not from hunger this time, but from focus. She felt an intensity she had never felt before, a connection to the world around her, and an awareness of someone who was watching her, thinking about her, and waiting for her next move. And Kale, retreating into the shadows, felt the same pull, a fascination, a curiosity, and something deeper stirring in his heart. The hunt had changed, the game had begun, and neither of them would ever be the same again. The days after Leora's first training session with Kale passed in a blur of new sensations. Every sound, smell, and movement seemed sharper than before. Even the wind brushing through the city streets carried a language she had never noticed. Her instincts, once quiet whispers, now pulsed like a steady drumbeat in her chest. She felt awake, alive, and strangely less alone. Kale, meanwhile, observed from the shadows, watching her adapt with fascination. He had seen many creatures in his long life, but few had shown the kind of rapid, instinctive growth that Leora displayed. She was human, yes, but her focus, her precision, and her adaptability were unlike anything he had encountered. And beneath it all, there was a spark, a stubborn courage and curiosity that made her more than just prey. Focus, Kale instructed on the third day, leading her into a quiet courtyard behind an abandoned manor. Not just on what is in front of you, but on everything around you. Movement, sound, patterns, you must anticipate before things happen. A slight rustle in the corner drew her attention before Kale spoke again. She turned, noticing a small stray cat slipping between the stone walls, its movements subtle but deliberate. Good, Kale said, his voice low and approving. Notice, learn, predict. For a moment she felt an exhilaration that was entirely new, a clarity that made the world feel alive with possibility. Why am I like this? Leora asked quietly, glancing at him. I've always been ordinary, or at least I thought I was. And when guided it can become strength, power. They practiced moving silently through alleyways, reading the subtle signals of other beings, and reacting with instinctive precision. Leora learned to anticipate the direction of a passerby, the weight of a crate about to tip, even the soft rustle of wings in the shadows. During one session, Kale tested her focus in a different way. He placed 3 small figures across the courtyard, wooden dummies painted to resemble city predators, and asked her to detect their placement while blindfolded. Leora hesitated at first, unsure if she could manage it, but she let her senses guide her. The air, the faint vibrations in the stone beneath her feet, even the subtle smell of paint and wood, all became clues. She moved with careful precision, circling the dummies, tapping them gently, identifying each one's position. When she removed the blindfold, Kale's approving smile was the only reward she needed. You are learning faster than I expected, Kale said. Your instincts are impressive. You do not know what you are capable of until it happens. Humans are unpredictable. That unpredictability is your strength. To you and to those around you. That is why training is necessary. Control must balance instinct. And yet Kale remained disciplined, predator and guide both, never crossing the line, though she sensed the underlying curiosity, and perhaps something more, lurking beneath his composed exterior. One evening they trained in the forest outside the city, where the trees whispered secrets and shadows moved like living things. The moonlight filtered through the leaves, casting silver patterns on the ground. Kale instructed her to track a hare he had released, to follow its scent and subtle movements without being noticed. Leora moved quietly, her pupils wide, her senses alive. She noticed every rustle, every shift in the underbrush, and she moved like a shadow among shadows. The hare darted suddenly, but she anticipated its path, positioning herself perfectly to guide it toward a trap she had set under Kale's instruction. When she succeeded, Kale's voice sounded behind her. Impressive, he said. You are learning to anticipate, to control instinct, to become precise. Like the world was giving me clues. She had always lived a cautious life, blending into the background, avoiding notice. And now she was being guided, taught to awaken instincts that were foreign yet thrilling. Kale watched her from the corner of his eyes, noticing the way her pupils dilated when she focused, the way her breathing changed when she anticipated movement. He had studied many creatures, but never a human who reacted this way, never one who intrigued him so. You are different, he said softly. Not just in skill, but in spirit. You do not fight like others. You do not fear like others. You adapt. You rely on instinct, on your mind, and on your body. That combination is rare, powerful. She could feel the intensity in Kale's gaze, the way he studied her with a predator's attention. It was unnerving, but also compelling. "Kale," she said quietly, her voice trembling slightly, "why do you care so much about me?" That unpredictability draws attention and sometimes admiration. "You are fascinating, Leora. That is why I care." Shadows shifted, and the night whispered secrets in a language she barely understood. Leora realized that she had come to trust Kale in a way that frightened her. He was dangerous, powerful, and yet she felt drawn to him in ways she could not explain. Kale's gaze softened. "Tomorrow we will face a new challenge," he said. "You must be ready. Not just for training, but for the world outside this forest. There are eyes that watch, forces that seek to control or destroy what you are becoming." As they returned to the city, the first rays of dawn breaking through the horizon, Leora felt her instincts still humming. Her pupils were wide, her focus sharp, and her heart alive with new possibilities. She understood now that the world was not as simple as she had thought. There were forces beyond her comprehension, but also strengths within her that she had never recognized. Kale watched from the shadows as she walked away. He felt a stirring he did not fully understand, an admiration, a protectiveness, and something more profound. He had seen many predators, many humans, many creatures with skill and cunning, but Leora, she was unlike any of them, and the bond forming between them was growing, subtle but undeniable. The night would come again, and with it, new challenges, new lessons, and new tests. But for now, Leora felt the thrill of discovery, the awakening of instinct, and the pull of something that was neither fear nor desire, but something deeper, connection. And Kale, retreating into the shadows, felt it too, the invisible thread binding them, fragile yet strong, dangerous yet full of potential. Their journey had begun, and neither of them would ever be the same again. The forest outside Elendor had grown darker with the coming night, though the moonlight filtered through the leaves, painting silver patterns on the ground. Leora followed Kale cautiously, her senses alert. Each step, each rustle of leaves was a signal she noticed, processed, and anticipated. She had grown stronger, faster, more aware since she had begun training, but tonight felt different. The air itself seemed charged, heavy with expectation. "Why are we here?" Leora asked, glancing around. "The forest seems quiet, too quiet." "Because tonight you face something more than instinct," he said finally. "Something within yourself. You have begun to awaken something, Leora, something dangerous. You must understand it, or it may control you. Tonight you will see what you are capable of, and what lies beneath the surface." Moonlight pooled in the center, illuminating a set of symbols etched into the earth, circles, lines, and shapes she did not recognize. Her instincts stirred uneasily, sensing an energy in the air that was both alluring and dangerous. "These markings are old," Kale explained. "They channel energies, ancient, powerful. Some humans can awaken these energies without knowing. You are one of them." "Focus," Kale instructed, stepping behind her. "Do not resist what rises within you. Observe it, control it, do not let it overwhelm. Your instincts will guide you." Every rustle of leaves, every whisper of wind, every distant animal call became a language she could understand. A surge of power coursed through her, and for a moment she felt untouchable. Her instincts were no longer mere survival. They were a force, an extension of herself. She could anticipate, predict, and move with precision that rivaled even Kale's. But then came the tremor, a dark pulse, sharp and cold, winding through her veins. She staggered slightly, her breath catching. The energy beneath her was not only strength, it was testing her, probing her limits, seeking to consume her focus. "Control it," Kale said urgently. "Do not let it drive you into frenzy. Breathe. Focus." Amber light flickered at the edges of her vision. She realized then that the power within her was alive, conscious, responding to her focus. If she could master it, she could be stronger than she had ever imagined. If she failed, she could lose herself. Kale moved closer, steadying her with a hand on her shoulder. "You are doing well," he said softly. "Do not fear it, embrace it. You are stronger than the curse wants you to believe." She opened her eyes and looked at Kale. He studied her, a mixture of approval, concern, and something more. His gaze lingered on her with an intensity that made her heart beat faster. "You have done well," he said quietly. "Most humans would have faltered, but you are learning faster than I imagined." She had faced something dangerous within herself and survived. And yet she could not ignore the lingering questions. What was this energy? How deep did it go? And what dangers might arise if she misstepped? Kale seemed to sense her thoughts. "There are others," he said. "Beings who will notice your awakening, forces that will seek to control or destroy. You must be ready, Leora. The world is not kind to those who are different." They stayed in the forest until the moon reached its zenith. Leora moved with confidence now, tracking subtle movements, feeling the pulse of life around her, and sensing the threads of energy that connected all things. Kale watched, silently proud and quietly fascinated. He had never seen a human respond to ancient forces with such speed, such focus, such intensity. "You are ready," he said at last, his voice low but firm. "But know this, readiness is only the beginning. Every action you take will echo farther than you imagine. Instincts, power, even humanity, these are tools. Use them wisely." She felt the energy within her, a latent force tied to her instincts, her focus, and now something more, something that might grow beyond even her understanding. She could feel the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders, heavy but not oppressive. "Kale," she said softly, hesitating. "Why are you helping me? You could leave. You could, I don't know, just walk away." She had never felt anyone see her like this, recognize her strength and her potential, and yet treat her with care. It was both terrifying and thrilling. The forest seemed to hum around them, alive with unseen eyes and whispering winds. Leora felt a stirring within her, a spark of something that could be dangerous, beautiful, and powerful all at once. She glanced at Kale, pupils wide, focus sharp. I want to learn more. I want to be ready." "You will test what you have learned, and I will watch." And Kale's presence lingered like a tether, pulling her forward, challenging her, and awakening emotions she had never dared to feel. The city awaited them, unaware of the transformation unfolding within one small human. But forces beyond the forest had begun to stir, and soon Leora's awakening would be noticed. She could feel it in the air, in the tension of the streets, and in the pull of destiny that was drawing her closer to both danger and greatness. As the moon dipped behind the horizon, Leora looked at Kale. "I'm ready," she whispered. "Whatever comes next, I'm ready. Instincts, focus, and trust, these will guide you, and you must trust yourself as much as you trust me." This human, fragile yet fierce, was unlike anyone he had ever known. The journey was far from over, and the dangers ahead were real. But together, they were stronger than either could have imagined. The city of Elendor had changed since Leora had begun her training. Where once the streets had seemed ordinary, now every shadow, every alley, and every flicker of movement held potential significance. Her senses were sharper, her instincts honed to a razor's edge. She could move unseen, anticipate danger, and respond with precision that rivaled even Kale's legendary skills. But tonight, a different tension hung in the air. She could feel it in the shifting breeze, in the distant footsteps echoing across the rooftops. The city itself seemed alive, aware, and aware of her. Forces that had previously ignored humans now noticed her awakening, the subtle power stirring beneath her skin. Kale walked beside her, silent and alert. His amber eyes scanned the streets, each movement measured, each shadow accounted for. Leora had grown under his guidance, and yet tonight the challenge was hers alone. The culmination of everything she had learned, the instincts, the focus, the control over her inner power would be tested. "Are you ready?" Kale asked, his voice low but steady. Leora nodded, her pupils wide, senses fully awake. "I'm ready. Whatever comes, I'll face it." Then we begin. Ahead in a deserted square, figures began to emerge from the darkness. Shadows of predators, beings with sharp eyes and sharper instincts, moved with purpose toward her. They had sensed her awakening, and their intent was clear. They sought control, perhaps destruction. Leora's heart raced, but not with fear. With every step, she felt focus sharpen. Her pupils dilated, her senses aligning. Kale stood beside her, a steady presence, but she realized she no longer relied solely on him. She was her own force now, and he was her partner, not her protector, but her equal in this moment. The predators advanced, circling. Their whispers were sharp, their eyes calculating. Leora held her ground, drawing in a deep breath. Every instinct, every lesson Kale had taught her, surged forward. She could see, feel, anticipate. The first figure lunged, fast and silent. Leora moved like the wind, sidestepping, her focus absolute. She guided her momentum, allowing instinct to control her actions without hesitation. The predator faltered, caught by her precision. Kale's voice came at her side, calm and confident. "Control, Leora, not rage, focus." Every movement, every whisper, every shadow became information. The predators moved, testing her. She responded, dancing between motion and stillness, anticipation and reaction. Her instincts, her power, and her training blended into a fluid rhythm. One of the figures tried to flank her. Leora shifted instinctively, intercepting the movement before it could reach her. She realized something extraordinary. She was not just reacting, she was predicting. Every predator before her, skilled as they were, became visible in the language of motion she had learned. Kale watched silently, pride mingling with awe. She had surpassed even his expectations. She was no longer the human who had once walked cautiously through the market. She was something new, focused, controlled, aware, powerful. The predators, realizing their attacks were futile, began to regroup. Leora did not hesitate. She moved toward them, a force of calm determination. Her instincts guided every step. The energy within her, the latent power she had struggled to control, now flowed with clarity. She directed it with precision, guiding her focus toward restraint rather than destruction. The largest predator hesitated, eyes narrowing at her. "Human," it hissed. "You are different." It could sense the clarity in her instincts, the focus, the power she now wielded. Leora stood tall, eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight, pupils wide with determination. She was no longer prey. She was an equal and perhaps something more. Kale stepped beside her, his presence a tether, a reminder that she was not alone, yet this battle was hers to face. The predators retreated slowly, sensing the balance of power had shifted. Leora watched them go, instincts still alert, senses sharp, but her mind at peace. She had mastered the first true test of her awakening. Kale's gaze met hers, amber eyes softened, admiration and something deeper shining through. "You have done it," he said quietly. "You have faced them and yourself. You are ready." "Kale," she whispered, voice trembling with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you." Leora realized the depth of their bond, the trust and understanding that had grown between them. It was not just teacher and student, predator and prey, it was partnership, respect, connection. Kale reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You are more than I expected," he said softly. "Stronger, wiser, and still human, that balance, it is rare, precious. And it is yours." Gratitude, awe, trust, and something warmer, deeper that made her pulse quicken. She only nodded, letting him understand without words. Kale smiled faintly, eyes glimmering. "Tonight you have mastered more than instinct. You have mastered yourself. And in doing so, you have changed everything." "Leora," Kale said finally, his voice a low murmur, "this is only the beginning. The world is still dangerous. Forces will notice you. But you are ready." "Equal." The city stretched around them, a world of unknowns, but Leora felt prepared. She had faced the awakening within herself, mastered her instincts, and forged a bond with Kale that would guide her through whatever came next. The moonlight glimmered on the rooftops, painting silver trails across the stones. Leora glanced at Kale, pupils dilated, focus sharp, not from hunger, not from fear, but from attention and something far more profound. Kale met her gaze, a faint smile on his lips, and the unspoken acknowledgement passed between them. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and the awakening of power that could have destroyed her. Yet together they had emerged stronger, bonded, and transformed. The world awaited, full of challenges and mysteries, but Leora no longer felt small, weak, or unseen. She had found her strength, her instincts, her place, and a companion who recognized her worth and potential. As they paused at the edge of the city, looking toward the horizon, the first light of dawn painted the sky in soft gold and pink. Leora took a deep breath, feeling the rhythm of life around her, the pulse of her instincts, and the steady presence of Kale beside her. "Together?" she asked, a hint of a smile on her lips. Kale nodded, amber eyes warm. "Together." And yet, for Leora and Kale, everything had changed. She had faced the darkness within herself, mastered her instincts, and discovered a strength she had never imagined. And Kale had discovered that humans, when awakened, were far more remarkable than he had ever believed. The horizon glowed, the city breathed, and two beings, human and predator, stood side by side, ready to face the world, whatever it might bring. The story of awakening, trust, and transformation was complete, for now. They noticed humans' pupils. Dilated when watching food, predator focus activated HFY Story.